Hey, what's going on everybody today, and welcome to a Remnant 2 Honest Game Review. In this video, I will be talking about all the pros and cons of Remnant 2, discussing everything from graphics and level design to combat and the actual story of the game, based on my own opinions and experiences. So, let's start off with the graphics and level design. In Remnant 2, there are multiple locations to explore. Those locations are Earth and Ward 13, Narud, the Labyrinth, Yesha, Losum, and Root Earth. I will be ranking each location itself, then ranking overall design at the end of this segment. Starting on Earth, you and your acquaintance Cass explore through some abandoned buildings and eventually make your way into an underground subway where you get attacked by the Root. You get wounded, and it's looking like all hope is lost until two unknown strangers, which we learn later to be Bo and Clementine, show up to save you. Once you are rescued, you're taken to a safe place. This is our first look into Ward 13. Unlike the previous game, Remnant from the Ashes, you don't just start at the Ward 13's shoreline. In Remnant 2, you must first fight for yourself and survive in order to make it to safety. Some of the cons of Earth and Ward 13 would be you don't get to explore beyond Ward 13, which in my opinion is somewhat unfortunate. I would have really liked to go and explore more of Earth, but it's understandable why you cannot, considering in Remnant from the Ashes, you cleansed Earth from the Root. One more thing I would have really liked to be able to do on Earth would be go inside the old building of Ward 13, just to be able to see what it looks like for old time's sake. Some of the pros of Earth and Ward 13 would be how interactive and well put together the new Ward 13 is. You don't just use Ward 13 as a main hub to upgrade your weapons or get new gear anymore. You can go and talk to many different NPCs and interact with some of the unique features, such as a shooting range, Dwell's shop, Cass's shop, and even planting a very cool looking seed. Just for the record, I did not learn about the Thane seed until after I beat the final boss, so I'll quickly tell you what it does. The Thane seed can either be taken to the Eternal Empress in Yesha, and if you give it to her, you will get the Burden of the Rebel Ring, which reduces skill cooldown by 15%, but also reduces relic use speed by 25%. Or, you plant the seed at Ward 13 and wait for it to grow into a tree. When the tree is grown, it will produce a fruit that will automatically revive you when you die, giving you a percentage of your health back and making you immune to status effects for 30 seconds. Other than the smaller features, there is also secrets in Ward 13 that provide very good loot. The main secret being the cargo ship. Inside the cargo ship, there are two areas. The front, which is accessible with the key, and the back, which is accessible from a portal. The way these secrets work is also very ingenious. To get the key for the cargo ship, you first need the lantern from Ford. Then you must check the bottom of the lantern to get a 4-digit code. Once found, you must take that code and use it on the chest in Ford's room. Open the chest, and you'll get the key. Bring that to the cargo ship, and enter through the door. The way these secrets were designed makes completing them feel a lot more rewarding. Almost as if even the most basic of secrets are an interesting puzzle. However, this room is only a tease. You'll notice a cooler looking room with a portal in it that is completely inaccessible from your position. To get into that room, you must go to the Labyrinth, and follow a secret path to a portal. The only way to open the portal is by using the Biome Portal Key. This will take you into the cargo ship and give you very strong armor and a cool gun. Overall, the secrets on Earth not only feel rewarding when completed, but are complex enough to feel like secrets, which is something other games lack at times. To be able to go out of your way in-game in order to complete a very random and challenging side quest to get nothing feels terrible. Remnant 2 is very good at creating these secrets, as all secrets are worth the challenge. The graphical design of the enemies and terrain on Earth and Ward 13 feels similar enough to Remnant from the Ashes, but are more refined and up-to-date, making it feel like a continuation of the last game rather than a brand new game itself. This is very important to me, because I enjoyed Remnant from the Ashes, so if Remnant 2 looked and felt like a totally different game, I don't know how much I would have liked it. There are also more passive creatures in Remnant 2, which add to the ambience of the game, bringing more life into it. The rating I would give for graphics and level design on Earth and Ward 13 is an 8 out of 10. Once you've completed the Earth tutorial mission, your next step is to get teleported to Narud. However, I will be going over that later. Instead, we will now go to the Labyrinth, which, in my opinion, is one of the best changed locations in the entire game. Comparing Remnant from the Ashes Labyrinth to Remnant 2's is night and day. Everything is new and up-to-date in such a unique way. Before, in Remnant from the Ashes, the Labyrinth was a teleportation hub, with a few new portals, no secrets, no enemies, just a way to travel. In Remnant 2, everything has changed. There are enemies, mini-bosses, actual bosses, huge areas to explore, secrets, and so much more. The enemies fit very well into the environment. The bosses feel like they belong, and the challenging landscape adds to the overall vibe that is the Labyrinth. With all the floating and moving portals that lead to different areas inside the Labyrinth, it creates a unique yet challenging task to overcome all obstacles to progress. Other than that, the Labyrinth doesn't actually offer too much. A lot of the story is progressed outside the Labyrinth, and the only time you need to go there is to see Clementine for the first time, and to give quest items to the Labyrinth Keeper to progress the story. Once you get the Biome Portal Key, you can access different worlds using the portals. Speaking of other worlds, let's take a quick look into Yeisha, but not before we give our rating to the Labyrinth. Overall, I would rate it a 10 out of 10. Considering what it was before, the Labyrinth was a huge step in the right direction. Now, let's go to Yeisha. Yeisha's design is similar to Remnant from the Ashes, only 100 times better. You feel like you are lost in an unknown jungle right off the bat. The enemies fit in very well to their environment. Not only is Yeisha a creepy jungle-themed location, but the floating islands on some of the later dungeons are amazing. By far, one of the coolest things about Yeisha in my opinion. The bosses are very well designed, and the boss arenas are also extremely intense to fight in, which has to be an onus of Yeisha. One downside in my opinion with all of Yeisha is how big every location was. It doesn't matter if it was a dungeon or the general area. It was very large, and in an unfamiliar jungle, it made it somewhat hard to traverse, especially with the enemies always respawning after you use a checkpoint crystal. One thing I am very happy about is how Yeisha was changed from a gameplay standpoint, as in the enemies and terrain. New enemies were created just for Yeisha's new look, and the locations matched the whole overgrown, overthrown vibe that was new Yeisha. I mean, if you're going to have players go to the same location, it might as well look similar. The Blood Moon feature was also another great addition that added a different element to Yeisha. Making players go out of their way to make sure they acquire the Blood Moon essence was a fun side quest, and it was something I always kept my eye out for. Overall, Yeisha's design was very well put together, and it definitely stood out from the previous Yeisha that we knew from Remnant from the Ashes. For this reason, I'll be rating it a 9 out of 10. Up next is Losum. Losum features a stunning cityscape that is medieval themed, with villagers who truly hate everything, including each other. The atmosphere of Losum can change very drastically depending on where you are. When you first arrive, You're met with a stunning castle that is made out of gold and marble with beautiful decorations. The music in Losum is some of the best Remnant music I have ever had the privilege to listen to. The sound design of all locations in the game were great, however, Losum takes the cake in regards to everything sound and music-wise. This brand new area brings so much uniqueness to Remnant 2 that it's almost overwhelming. All the enemies fit in very well into this location, all of them have a somewhat creepy aspect to them, and some are just downright terrifying. Everything from the magnificent castle, to the cityscape in disarray, to the sewers that not only offer jump scares, but also give more depth into the backstory of Losum. I personally have nothing bad to say about Losum. Not just because it's all new, but because it was very well put together. The unique enemies and location worked so perfectly that you truly felt like you were sent back in time. The bosses were interesting because they didn't all want to kill you immediately, and some would rather just talk about certain events that are happening currently or in the past. Losum overall was one of the coolest locations in the entire game in my opinion. No downside. For this reason, I would have to rate Losum a 10 out of 10. Narud is a location that feels confusing when you first arrive, and just as confusing when you leave. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I found it more difficult to figure out what the point of me being there was. It's a futuristic location that seems to be at war with itself. There is no root there that is attempting to take over, and the only person you consider to be your friend is someone by the name the Custodian, whose initial appearance is that of a floating robot. You are told to make it to the tower, with the white orb atop it. Sounds easier than it is though. To make it to this tower, you must battle your way through a low-visibility wasteland full of dormant robots and ghoulish-like fiends. For the way the environment is portrayed, these enemies fit in well. But for this being the first world you're destined to visit, it's actually quite challenging. The enemies have relatively high health and are sometimes hard to hit. Some even have shields that protects them from your already petty damaging shots. The dungeons in Narud were fun and challenging, which is always something I enjoy. But the enemies I found to be a bit too challenging, at least for the early game. Some of the cons I would say about Narud are the low visibility is a little bit annoying, and when you can walk out into a death barrier very easily, it becomes very challenging to figure out which way you're actually supposed to be going. On top of that, it was a very large area, so to traverse from one side to another with poor armor and low-grade weapons was somewhat annoying. The enemies are strong for that area, but not too bad, and I didn't really understand the reason why I was there other than I was going after Clementine. However, although I mentioned a few cons, there are still some pros. Firstly, Narud is a new area with new enemies, which is something I really liked. The bosses were fun and challenging, and the dungeons were engaging but not too long. The task to open the main door was fun, and I wanted to keep progressing to get more seeker keys. Overall, I would have to give this location a 6 out of 10. Primarily because it wasn't as fun as the other locations, but it was definitely unique. The final location of this game is Root Earth. The Root Earth location was an interesting concept to me. Considering we didn't get much of a chance to explore regular Earth, I thought this may be some form of compensation. However, I don't believe it was, and that's a good thing. Root Earth felt like its own world, having unique enemies and a lot of mini-bosses scattered throughout the world. It really felt as if I was behind enemy lines. The bosses were very challenging, including the final boss. However, some bosses were very fun to defeat. The environment on Root Earth was no different than a stormy night on Earth, but with a lot of bad guys running around. I felt that Root Earth was a very short location in comparison to some of the other locations in Remnant 2, but it wasn't too short. The final boss felt like an actual final boss. Similar to Remnant from the Ashes, it had 2 phases, and for the first time fighting it, you have no idea what you're doing. It's even worse when you reach its second phase. However, with this being said, I believe that the final boss is worthy of its title purely because you knew it was supposed to be the end of the route. The overall atmosphere of Root Earth was a bit creepy, but it almost felt as if you knew where you were going the whole time. The level layout was really well designed, and even though you were on enemy territory, you were not overwhelmed with bad guys. Due to Root Earth being rather short, you don't get to spend much time looking around for side quests or anything, so this will affect its final score. I would have to say Root Earth goes from 0 to 100 very quickly, and for seemingly being a very small area, everything happens super fast. That is, until the final boss fight. I would rate Root Earth an 8 out of 10 for its uniqueness and level layout. The only thing I would say that works against Root Earth is how much goes on in the final boss fight. For an overall rating of the graphic design and level layout for Remnant 2, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. The features in each level stand out from every other game I've played, and I was super happy to see the quality of the game when I played it for the first time and when I finished it. Now to talk about the combat system and overall gameplay of Remnant 2. Similar to Remnant from the Ashes, there are classes of characters called archetypes. These archetypes cover a wide variety of playstyles to give every player a unique experience. Later into the game, when you reach level 10 for your first archetype you pick, you can select a secondary archetype which gives you a second ability. In my playthrough that I did, feel free to go back and watch those videos because they were super fun. Yes, this is a self-promotion attempt. I chose the Challenger archetype, which starts you off with a semi-automatic shotgun, a pistol, and a giant sword that looks like it's made out of a gear and a saw blade. The designs of these archetypes are all unique and are fit to match specific playstyles. The second archetype I chose was the Summoner archetype. This gave me the ability to summon root monsters to aid me. This archetype is also one you cannot pick from the start of the game, so being able to earn or buy a later archetype feels really good rather than picking it from the beginning. The actual concepts behind all the archetypes are very well designed with the players in mind, and how the abilities function on their own and together make you feel like an unstoppable beast when you're using everything that you have to your advantage. The combat in Remnant 2 is once again very similar to Remnant from the Ashes. Being able to correctly use your dodge and backdash evades to properly destroy enemies feels really good. The armor system in the game is also very balanced in my opinion. The rings and amulets all do unique things, but can also all work so well together. Another element that was added was more relics to use. Before, in Remnant from the Ashes, you only had a dragon heart. However, in Remnant 2, you can choose from a wider variety of relics to fit your playstyle. Before I give the rating for combat and gameplay, I first want to give some kind of honorable mention to the cinematic cutscenes in the game, for how good they looked. Now on to the final rating. Overall, the combat and gameplay in Remnant 2 is fairly straightforward, making it easy to learn and easy to master. As an overall rating for the combat and gameplay, I would give a 10 out of 10. My reasoning for this is because of how smooth the game plays, and how little to no issues with the combat or gameplay systems there are. The last category is about the characters and NPCs in the game, and it's gonna be rather short, but hopefully impactful. Every character and NPC in the game fits perfectly. Everything from Dwell being a part of Ward 13, to even the new archetype dealer Wallace. The core NPCs at Ward 13 include Bo, who doesn't do much but worry a lot, Clementine, even though she ends up in the labyrinth later, Ford, who pretty much leaves immediately, Dwell, who sells strange relic items, McCabe, who sells weapons that are made from boss items, she's also kinda mean, Riggs, who is amazing and upgrades your guns, Wallace, who gives you archetypes, and Cass, who was with you from the beginning and sells some items. Outside of Ward 13, there are also many unique characters. Some include the Custodian from Nerud, the Eternal Empress from Yesha, 3 council members, Savan, Honoril, and Nail from Losum, and the Keeper from both the Labyrinth and Root Earth. Overall, it's hard to rate all the characters from the game, but I would have to give them an 8 out of 10. A lot of characters were useful, some weren't, and some were just fun to talk to for a while. In my personal opinion, Remnant 2 is an excellent game, and should have won Best Action Game at the Game Awards. But in all seriousness, Remnant 2 is a must-play if you enjoyed Remnant from the Ashes, and if you like a game that always brings a good vibe, with an action-packed plot and an in-depth story. This game will be perfect for you. My final rating of Remnant 2 for my honest game review is a 9 out of 10. Or a more specific number as a 53 out of 57. This game has the replayability to last for a long, long time, and I am so happy I got to go through this game with everybody who tuned into my playthrough videos. So thank you very much for watching. I thoroughly hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, comment any of your own opinions or ratings in the comments, or challenge my ratings with your own views. I'd love to hear what you all have to say. Feel free to subscribe if you like these kind of videos and content and want to see more videos like this. So anyways, thanks again for watching, and until next time, see you later.